Assalamualaikum. My name is Dr. Kalbi Abbas. I am associate professor here at AKU, and today we will be discussing management of pediatric cardiogenic shock and low cardiac output syndrome. This will exclude low cardiac output syndrome related to post-surgical congenital heart disease syndrome, but we will touch upon the other cases. Before I start, I declare that I don't have any conflict of interest related to this talk. So how do we define shock? It is basically an imbalance between oxygen demand and supply. So whether either there is a problem with the oxygen supply or oxygen delivery to the tissues, or there is an increased demand. And whenever there is a mismatch between tissue oxygen delivery and demand, we label it as shock. And when it is related to condition to the heart, then we call it as cardiogenic shock. And if we see the equation for tissue oxygen delivery, the major determinant is cardiac output, and cardiac output का जो formula है, that is heart rate multiplied by stroke volume. And we know that stroke volume depends on preload, afterload and myocardial contractility. And we know कि preload क्या होता है, but I'll just revise कि preload is the volume of blood at the end of diastole which is present in the heart is called preload, and this is one of the major determinant of stroke volume as well as contractility. Afterload is the pressure against which the heart works, or the pressure at the end of systole. This basically determines our blood pressure. And myocardial contractility, we all know that it is the contraction of the heart muscles to pump blood out of the heart into the vessels. सो अगर हम इस डायग्राम को देखें जिसमें ऑक्सीजन डिलीवरी को हमने इंक्रीज़ करना है टू ट्रीट शॉक एंड डिमांड को कम करना है. सो ऑक्सीजन टिश्यू डिलीवरी को हम कैसे ज़्यादा कर सकते हैं इज़ थ्रू कंट्रोलिंग द हार्ट रेट इफ़ देर आर अरिथमियाज लाइक टैकीअरिथमिया और ब्रैडीअरिथमिया, करेक्टिंग दोज, and also looking factors affecting VO2, which is the oxygen consumption, especially the myocardial oxygen consumption, because if that is great, then that also leads to increased myocardial work and heart starts pumping more blood to itself too. Then preload जैसे कि हमने कहा कि it is the blood volume in the heart at the start of systole or the end of diastole, and it depends on a lot of factors which are mentioned here. Then contractility is affected by our blood sugar level, calcium levels, hemoglobin level, acidosis, and a lot of other inotropes, and it is affected in diseases like myocarditis or cardiomyopathies, or if there is a surgery on the heart. And then afterload is determined by the vascular tone. And there are certain other congenital heart diseases where the afterload is reduced is increased for the heart, and we will discuss those conditions. So these all feed into cardiac output, and then cardiac output determines the oxygen delivery. The other two components, important component in oxygen delivery is hemoglobin, and this becomes important if a patient is bleeding or has severe anemia, or if there are hemoglobinopathies. And the second important component is oxygen saturation. So oxygen saturation can be low because of intracardiac shunts, lung disease, Bohr effect, which shift the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, and it can also be related to carboxyhemoglobinopathies and methemoglobinemia. So all these factors increase cardiac contractility and cardiac output, leading to increased tissue oxygen delivery. The other component is working on the consumption. So working on the consumption is like controlling for pain, providing good analgesia, decreasing patient activity by providing sedation, taking over the work of breathing by making patient ventilated on mechanical ventilator, keeping them sedated and relaxed, actively controlling their temperature and shivering, and not letting the fever to happen, and then seeing if there is any underlying trauma or sepsis and treating for those conditions. So this is how we can overall manage a patient with cardiogenic shock based on our previous knowledge, and we will discuss these one by one. Another important concept here is the Frank-Starling curve. Frank-Starling curve is basically a curve which is generated by plotting stroke volume on the y-axis and preload on the x-axis, which essentially mean that as we increase the preload, the stroke volume increases, and up to a certain limit, then it becomes plateaued and even start decreasing. And in cardiogenic shock, this curve is affected hugely. So that means that we don't have the option of increasing the preload to increase the contractility. So that means कि preload हमारा जो target होता है उसको decrease करने का होता है, not to increase the preload in cardiogenic shock, as is the case with other situations. So we have to be really cautious to see कि हम इनको कितना fluid दे रहे हैं, because that can push them into acute heart failure and make the things worse, because then workup breathing also increases and that the patient can land into acute respiratory failure. The other specific conditions could be ये जो दो बच्चों में common conditions होती हैं, one is left to right shunt, which can happen because of the septal defect, like especially ventricular septal defect, or this can happen because of valvular insufficiency like mitral valve relapse, prolapse or mitral valve regurgitation, जो कि rheumatic heart diseases के बाद काफ़ी common होता है. And second is lesions that result in increased afterload to the ventricle like pulmonary stenosis or aortic stenosis or coarctation of aorta. And three compensatory mechanisms are increase in heart rate through sympathetic drive, which also leads to increase in norepinephrine and increased vascular tone. So sometimes we have to treat this increased vascular tone. Then dilation, जहाँ पे Frank Starling curve और contraction का concept आता है, and then neurohormonal control, which leads to redistribution of blood to the vital organs including brain and kidney, और इसमें renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system और ये sympathetic tone की का role आता है. Then if we see कि इन बच्चों को हम assess कैसे करते हैं, so we assess the peripheral perfusion, capillary refill, temperature difference, and if the temperature difference between the center and the peripheries is more than 3 Celsius, then that means that the patient is in active shock. Then we see the peripheral and central pulses, especially the peripheral pulses like dorsalis pedis are weak. Then urine output, they are on the oliguric side. Then mental status, arterial waveform, metabolic acidosis and lactate also are important determinant of shock, especially cardiogenic shock. And if we see the system wise, we assess the overall status of the patient. ये patient जो acute cardiogenic shock या heart failure में आते हैं, they are asthenic, they have excessive sweating, and they also and system wise अगर देखें, so they are tachycardic, they can have edema with decreased peripheral pulses, they can have arrhythmia, and there could be a jugular turgor in there. Then they could be tachypneic because of increased pulmonary blood flow or pulmonary edema. They are usually anxious and restless to begin with, and as the shock progresses, the consciousness also progresses to coma. Then they can have hepatomegaly and decreased transit time leading to small frequent stools, and in renal they can have oliguria and anguria leading to acute kidney injury. So coming on to the assessment and management, this is a very important slide from assessment perspective as well as management. के इसमें हम दो चीज़ों को रखते हैं. Y-axis पे there is perfusion status, and on x-axis there is congestion at rest, which congestion means कि lung का blood flow कैसा है, और pulmonary edema तो नहीं है, workup breathing कितना है, and peripheral edema कितना है, और perfusion mean कि peripheral capillary refill कितना है, और pulses कैसी हैं. So in ideal state, a patient should be warm, well perfused and dry, which means no edema and normal workup breathing. In state A, the patient becomes warm and wet, which means कि perfusion अभी तक maintained है, cardiac output is maintained through compensatory mechanism, but pulmonary edema होना शुरू हो गया है, edema होना शुरू हो गया है, and patient is having increased workup breathing. And the इससे worse condition is C, where the perfusion has started getting affected, तो patient की perfusion भी ख़राब होती है और patient का वर्कअप ब्रीदिंग भी ज़्यादा होता है और एडिमा भी होता है. एंड डी इज़ अ नियर डेथ सिंड्रोम, जहाँ पे पेशेंट आर कोल्ड एंड ड्राई, कि ना तो उनकी परफ्यूजन होती है और ना उनकी लंग में पल्मोनरी एडिमा होता है, बिकॉज एसेंशली देयर इज़ नो कार्डिक आउटपुट. सो इनको हम जब ट्रीट करते हैं तो वी टेक द पेशेंट फ्राम डी टू सी, सी टू ए एंड ए टू बी विद द हेल्प ऑफ आइनोट्रॉप्स, with the help of diuretics and with the help of vasodilators, based on कि कौन सी स्टेट में है पेशेंट और उसकी अंडरलाइंग फिजियोलॉजी क्या चल रही है. सो अगेन 3 important components are preload. So अगर high preload है जो इन बच्चों में होता है तो we use diuretics. Diuretics can be used in boluses or infusion. We will discuss it. High afterload में हम vasodilators देते हैं which can be nitroglycerin, sodium nitroprusside, or sometime we use milrinone, and even low dose epinephrine. And then if there is poor contractility, then we use inotrop to decrease the afterload, especially epinephrine and milrinone. This is the roadmap for these patients when they present with acute cardiogenic shock. So पहला जो phase होता है that is the rescue phase, which is 24 to 48 hours, and our main armamentarium जो होते हैं वो होते हैं inotropes. So we put these patients on inotropes, specifically epinephrine low dose 0.05 to 0.08, because जितना हम epinephrine की डोज बढ़ाते हैं अल्फा रिसेप्टर्स का काम आना शुरू हो जाता है, and that leads to increase vasoconstriction. So उससे हमने बचना होता है. अगर ब्लड प्रेशर थोड़ा स्टेबलाइज हो जाते हैं we put these patients on milrinone ताकि वो कार्डियक कॉन्ट्रैक्टिलिटी भी बढ़ाए और आइनोडाइलेटर का काम करे. And once patients are stable, or even if they are getting stable, we put them on Lasix infusion at a dose of 0.1 to 1 mg per kilo per hour, usually on a lower dose to make sure कि एक adequate urine maintain होता रहे और patient और ज़्यादा fluid overload में ना जाए. Then the other concentration here are transfusion of PEG cells, especially if the patient is in fulminant myocarditis and the hemoglobin is less than 8, then that is an indication for transfusion. And we also see कि हमें positive pressure ventilation देने की ज़रूरत तो नहीं है. That can be invasive or non-invasive. In older children, BiPAP is an option. In jungle children, CPAP or high flow nasal cannula is an option. And that those are not working, then invasive mechanical ventilation is an important thing. Then अगर इससे चीज़ें नहीं हो रही, then escalation phase. In escalation phase is कि हम invasive mechanical ventilation पे चले जाएं, multiple inotropes पे चले जाएं, and sometime mechanical circulatory support which is not available with us, but renal replacement therapy etc. And then यहाँ से बाहर तो बच्चे ट्रांसप्लांट हो जाते हैं, but we can't do anything. Once हम इस phase से निकल आए तो then stabilization phase आती है, which is for next 7 to 14 days, and our aim here is to gradually de-escalate inotropes and IV diuretics to oral diuretics, start them on ACE inhibitors, spironolactone, and heart rate controlling drug if needed, like digoxin or ivabradine is a new drug. And then oral anticoagulants भी इन बच्चों को start करते हैं if they continue to have decreased contractility. And then from here we discharge these patients and with the follow-up on the cardiologist. So coming on to the specific topic of ventricular septal defect. So we know कि जो blood flow होता है from left to right ventricle वो ज़्यादा होता है, because left ventricle is a high pressure chamber and RV is a low pressure chamber. So उसकी वजह से, and VSDs can be single or multiple, and they can be isolated or part of other disorders. So VSD को एक तो वो टाइप पे करते हैं कि ये मेम्ब्रेनस है या मस्कुलर है, और दूसरा करते हैं इनकी फिजियोलॉजी पे कि ये रिस्ट्रिक्टिव है या नॉन रिस्ट्रिक्टिव है. सो रिस्ट्रिक्टिव का ये मतलब है कि स्मॉलर साइज़ का यूजली less than 0.5 centimeter of water, and which is smaller than the aortic valve orifice. तो इनमें शंट कंट्रोल रहता है, ज़्यादा नहीं जाता, और राइट और लेफ़्ट की मिक्सिंग नहीं होती. Most of these restrictive VSDs resolve by 1 to 2 years of age. Non-restrictive वो होते हैं कि there is no restriction of blood flow from the left to the right. These are the patients who present with heart failure, and they are the children who present with recurrent respiratory infections and pneumonias. And we know that they can be initially asymptomatic, then they get pulmonary infections, they are failure to thrive, there is tachypnea, poor feeding, sweating, irritability, there can be poor perfusion agar ye acute heart failure mein aaye with decreased pulses, there is thrill in the epicardium and holosystolic murmur, and then hepatomegaly. How do we manage is medical and surgical. In medical we provide them with respiratory support. Important point यहाँ पे जो रिमेंबर करना है वो ये करना है कि CPAP जो हम बबल CPAP बनाते हैं दैट इज़ नॉट अ गुड थेरेपी फॉर VSD पेशेंट, और उसका रीज़न ये है कि बिकॉज उनमें हम ऑक्सीजन 100% दे रहे होते हैं. If you cannot control oxygen to these patients, then it is better to consider an alternative respiratory support like high flow nasal cannula or even invasive, because हमने इनको मिनिमम से मिनिमम ऑक्सीजन देनी है, प्रेफरेबली रूम एयर पे इनको सपोर्ट करना है. डायूरेटिक्स देते हैं, आइनोट्रॉप्स अगर परफ्यूजन ख़राब है बेस्ड ऑन कि वो हमारी परफ्यूजन कैसी है, एंड देन फ्लूइड स्टेटस ऑप्टिमाइजेशन के फ्लूइड स्टेटस को असेस करना है. अगर इफ़ देर आर साइंस कि इनको फ्लूइड लॉस हुआ है तो वी गिव स्मॉल बोलसेस, अदरवाइज वी गिव देम डायूरेटिक्स ताकि प्री लोड ऑप्टिमाइज़ रहे और फ्रैंक स्टार्लिंग कर्व पे ये पीक पे मेंटेन रहें और ये हार्ट फेलियर या डायलेटेशन की तरफ ना जाएं. Then indication for surgery are large defect with congestive heart failure, and if there is moderate size if defect with a shunt ratio of greater than 1.5 to 1 and failure of the medical therapy कि वो इनकी growth नहीं हो रही, recurrent chest infections हो रही हैं etc. And if there is subarterial or conoventricular VSD which is affecting the aortic valve and aortic regurgitation हो रही है, so that is an indication for surgery. So pediatric myocarditis is basically inflammation of the myocardium with myocellular necrosis or degeneration होती है. So if we see the left hand of the screen, we see कि अगर हम timeline देखें, so किसी ज़माने में Coxsackie virus used to be the normal a common virus for this, then enteroviruses और फिर adenoviruses आए, and now these Epstein-Barr and hepatitis B virus are the hepatitis C virus are the more common bugs causing viral myocarditis. But remember that this data is from the US. So now more and more ये जो enteroviruses होते हैं, they are taking over the etiology of myocarditis, and this can be related to changes in weather, vaccination status, and a lot of other factors. So what happens if we see the right side of the screen, there could be right heart failure, there could be left heart failure, but usually जब ये myocarditis होता है, so it's a biventricular failure. So इसलिए perfusion भी कम मिलती है और हमें congestion भी मिलती है because of this reason. So अगर हम इसको algorithmic लेके चलें, so emergency room management which is essentially first 1 to 2 hours की होती है, so उसमें हमने जैसे पीछे discuss किया, so it is basically we assess the patient for signs of shock, and then we see कि इनकी perfusion कैसी है और congestion कैसी है. If there is hepatomegaly and gallop, then we send certain labs like troponins and pro-BNP and electrolytes, and we get an echo, and if there is no hepatomegaly and gallop, then we check कि कोई infectious etiology तो नहीं है, क्योंकि septic shock भी ये इस तरह से present कर सकता है. And once we know कि ये किस category में fall हो रहे हैं, अगर ये septic shock है तो हम उस तरह से treat करते हैं, but if this is not septic shock, then we give them fluid calculated 5 to 10 ml per kilo over 30 minutes, and then we provide them hemodynamic support along जिसमें cardiovascular support, respiratory, renal fluids, and as well as miscellaneous. And ये जो सारी होती हैं, अब respiratory में we give them some respiratory support which can be bubble CPAP or high flow nasal cannula or positive invasive mechanical ventilation. Drugs for intubation in these children are preferably atracurium or cisatracurium, fentanyl and ketamine. We try to avoid using succinylcholine as well as midazolam because they can lead to hypotension, as well as propofol को भी हम avoid करते हैं. And we get a chest X-ray. In respiratory support, so ये respiratory support हो गया. In cardiovascular support, we start them on milrinone or dobutamine, epinephrine preferably. These inotropes can be given through peripheral line. We start them on furosemide infusion preferably instead of boluses, and it is perfectly fine कि जब patient shock में भी है, so we give them टारगेटेड लो डोज फ्यूरोसेमाइड इन्फ्यूजन टू मेक श्योर कि वो कंजेशन उनकी बेहतर होती रहे, बिकॉज उनका फिर ये प्री लोड कम होगा और वर्क ब्रीदिंग बेहतर होगा. जब वर्क ब्रीदिंग बेहतर होगा तो कार्डिक आउटपुट पे स्ट्रेस कम पड़ेगी. एंड वंस दीज आर स्टेबलाइज्ड, लेटर ऑन वी स्टार्ट देम ऑन spironolactone, and obviously we monitor and treat them for arrhythmias if there are any, and we will touch upon later in the slides. We keep them on half to two-third maintenance fluid, target a negative fluid balance, and we treat acidosis very actively with soda bicarb, and we do not tolerate any acidosis or base deficit. And our target is to maintain a good urine output of 1 to 2 ml per kilo per hour. In CNS, if the kid is intubated, we keep them stated and paralyzed, but if they are on non-invasive, then we keep them good, very well sedated. We treat fever actively. We give them acid suppressant drug for like omeprazole, and we give antibiotic, and if the hemoglobin is less than 8, it is an indication for transfusion. Coming on to the arrhythmias, so जिसको हम SVT कहते हैं, technically that is SVT में बहुत सारे आ जाते हैं, but I will touch upon few of them because we have a separate talk on arrhythmias too, so I will refer you to there. But इसमें most common जो होता है बच्चों में, that is re-entrant supraventricular tachycardia, और इसको कहते हैं हम atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia. इसमें फिर दो होते हैं, आर्थोड्रोमिक और एंटीड्रोमिक. आर्थोड्रोमिक में there is a unidirectional retrograde anomalous pathway. So SA node से AV node और AV node से accessory pathway से वो वापस जाता है, and this is how this reciprocate करता है उसको. And the other is antidromic. Antidromic में the normal pulse comes through the accessory pathway and it goes back through the AV node, वो back जाती है. सो ये इसकी वजह से बिकॉज वो प्री एक्साइटेशन हो जाती है, सो देर इज़ अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ डेल्टा वेव बिकॉज ऑफ वेंट्रिकुलर प्री एक्साइटेशन, तो उसको हम WPW कहते हैं. सो इसको डिफ्रेंशिएट ऐसे करते हैं कि वो एक्सेसरी पैथवे से जो आती है वो प्री एक्साइटेशन या डेल्टा वेव बनती है. Other type of SVT is AV nodal re-entrant tachycardia, which is most common in older children, और adult में ये ज़्यादा common होता है. And इसमें दो common pathways होते हैं, fast और slow. Fast pathway is short, has a short conduction time, has a long refractory period, and usually conducts in the retrograde. Slow is जो होता है वो antigrade fashion में करता है, इसका long conducting time होता है और short refractory period होता है. And then if अगर इसको मैनेज कैसे करते हैं, if the patient is hemodynamically unstable, then we go for synchronized cardioversion. If the patient is hemodynamically stable, then we do vagal maneuvers, we use adenosine, and we can be certain कि ये WPW तो नहीं है, because अगर WPW है तो then we have to be careful, especially using beta blockers, और अगर beta blockers भी नहीं काम कर रहे तो then we go on to amiodarone to at least control the rate, because that is the first priority in these patients, and obviously we involve cardiology in that. Then atrial tachycardia is a subset of SVT. इसका ये मतलब होता है कि atrial origin है और नॉन डिपेंडेंस ऑन द AV नोड एंड एक्सेसरी पाथवे और वेंट्रिकुलर टिश्यू पे नहीं होता इसका डिपेंडेंस. सो इसमें फिर दो होते हैं, वन इज़ फोकल एट्रियल टैकिकार्डिया, विच मींस कि ये सिंगल फोकस होता है और ये पैरोक्सिस्मल होते हैं, वाइल मल्टीफोकल एट्रियल टैकिकार्डिया का ये मतलब है कि मोर देन 3 पे वेव्स की मॉर्फोलॉजी होती है इनमें, और एट्रियल रेट इज़ वेरी वेरी हाई, मोर देन 400, वाइल वेंट्रिकुलर रेट इज़ 150 to 250. फिर एट्रियल फ्लटर वी ऑल नो दैट सम ऑफ देम रिजॉल्व स्पॉन्टेनियसली, बट अगर हमने रेट कंट्रोल करना है तो देन द ऑप्शन आर डिजॉक्सिन, एमियोड्रोन और प्रोपेफिनोन, और अगर नथिंग इज़ वर्किंग देन अब्लेशन is the answer. Then ventricular tachycardia, we know कि अगर more than 3 consecutive premature ventricular contractions आ रही हैं तो that is a VTAC, and इसका then this is also associated with long QT syndrome and other diseases, or it can be simply the effect of some other disease, और वो जब terminal होता है इसमें हम amiodarone देते हैं over 20 to 60 minutes, and we also do synchronized cardioversion if the patient is hemodynamically stable, कि अगर उसके blood pressure maintain है और pulses हैं. अगर unstable है तो we treat it as ventricular fibrillation and we defibrillate with 2 joules per kilo. and we also involve cardiology in this. So with this we will end, and if you have any question you can contact me at kalab.abbas. Thank you so much.